Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Target PT 2023 series. Today we are going to discuss GS Paper 3 syllabus from the perspective of your prelims as well as mains examination. This particular GS paper has been divided into 5 parts: economic development, agriculture, science and tech, biodiversity and security. We are dividing it into 2 episodes because it is going to be too lengthy. The 2 episodes will comprise of, in the first part, we will cover economic development and agriculture. Then the following part will comprise of science and technology, biodiversity, and security. So today we are going to discuss the first 2 ones. First, economic development. Here you will consider Indian economy and the issues which are related to planning, mobilization of resources, growth, development, and employment. For planning, of course, meaning of it, the need of it, what is the difference between imperative, indicative and structural planning? The sheer objectives, why do we need to plan? And what is the history with respect to planning in India? The techniques that are followed, if there are any failures, plus the achievements of it. What are the shortcomings of planning? And how Niti Aayog is different from the Planning Commission? This is also important. With respect to mobilization of resources, we will focus upon the types of it: financial, human, as well as natural, etc. What is the need for resource mobilization and what is the role of saving and investment? How does it generate employment, etc. Government resources, tax as well as non-tax, banking sectors and NBFCs, capital markets, the external sources that India has for revenue and investment, public borrowing and management of public debt, the challenges when it comes to resource mobilization for development, and how can we address these challenges. This is important from the perspective of prelims and mains both. For growth and development, the meaning of it, difference of it, this can be gauged from NCERTs also. Determinants of it, the importance and limitations of economic growth. What is the meaning of jobless growth, and what is the meaning of pro-poor growth? Balanced as well as unbalanced growth, the difference between it and why does it happen? Dimensions of development and measurements and indicators of development. How can we say that we have become developed? What are the approaches to it, which can range from market-based? What is the role of state here? And the planned approach. What is the mixed economy approach? And the challenges to development and growth both. Then comes very important part. This is going to be extremely important for mains and pre both. So employment, natural or nature of rural versus urban. What is the basic nature of it? Formal versus informal. Then types or terms related to employment that can range from labor force participation rate, employment rate, working age population. What does all this mean? Sectoral distribution of employment. How does the quality of employment occur in India? Causes of lack of employment. Why India cannot generate the amount of employment according to the proportion of demography. Restructuring of workforce, why India needs to do it, and government initiatives for generating employment. Then comes inclusive growth. Inclusive growth means growth for all, which the current government has the statement or the slogan for Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So it is inclusive growth only. And in issues arising from it, what is it? What are the elements of it? The features basically. How can we say the growth is inclusive or not? What is the need as well as indicators for it? Then challenges in achieving inclusive growth in India, the 12th 5-year plan and inclusive growth. The last 5-year plan is important, so do read about it. Then comes government budgeting, the need for it. What are the components of government budgeting? What is the revenue account? Here revenue receipts and revenue expenditure both has to be explained and learned. For capital, again capital receipts and capital expenditure. Challenges in budgetary processes since 2017. Measures of government deficit, revenue, fiscal, primary, fiscal policy. These 3 deficits are very important. How do you know which one is what? Okay. Moving ahead to the next part, deficit reduction. How can we reduce deficit? Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act plus other types of budget such as outcome zero based. This is important when you will study budget. Land reforms in India. What is the rationale for it? What are the components, impacts, problems and implementation of land reforms? Success in it and recent initiative such as land leasing, land acquiring, rehabilitation and resettlement act. Then we have effects of liberalization of the economy, phases of liberalization, impacts on the different sectors. So liberalization, privatization plus globalization. Changes in industrial policy and the impacts on industrial growth. The policies before 91 for industry and after, both are important. The phases of industrial growth, how did it occur? Linkage between economic reforms and economic outcomes, that is specifically, we are talking about 1991 only. Weaknesses and failures of industrial policy, national manufacturing policy, SEZs, Make in India, Skill India, all these important initiatives that have been undertaken in the last 5 years. Infrastructure, here we have energy, ports, roads, airports and railways, important both for pre and mains. All right. Moving ahead, investment models. Why do we need to invest? What are the sources of investment? How many models are there and what is the definition of it? Public investment, private investment and PPP investment model. And then foreign investment models as well, foreign institutional investment and FDIs. Then sector specific investment model, which sector is garnering more investment on what basis? Cluster based investment model, how can we encourage this? And which investment models are followed by India? Then comes the next part of this episode, that is agriculture. Here you will have to study for both pre and mains, major crops, cropping pattern in various parts of the country. What is the importance of cropping pattern and types of it? Also the reasons why cropping patterns differ from region to region. What are the factors which are influencing this? And emerging trends in cropping pattern, best practices of the world you can also see. Long run impacts of current trends in cropping pattern. Different types of irrigation and irrigation system storage, very important for mains as well because of the change in climate. Modes of irrigation, sources and choosing an irrigation system which is the best for an area. Problems which are associated with irrigation and the process of irrigation under 5-year plans. Not very, but yes, history is important. Environmental effects of it and need for systemic irrigation reforms, like we have more crop per drop, like that only. And the need for national water policy, transport and marketing of agricultural produce and issues of related constraints. The process of agriculture marketing channels, functionaries, costs, role of FCI, regulated markets, warehousing, cooperative markets, shortcomings of current agricultural marketing processes. In APMCs, also, you have to study the features of it, the national agricultural market, then farmer producer organization, contract farming, future trading in agriculture commodity. This is important because in the last 2 years we are seeing a buzz around it. For next part, of course, e-technology in the aid of farmer technology missions, whatever important initiatives and schemes have been undertaken. So issues related to direct and indirect farm subsidies and minimum support prices, very, very important for both pre and mains. Agricultural pricing policy and the rationale for subsidy, types of subsidy. This we have covered in our in news as well. Okay, so do see it. Effectiveness, extent and problems of it and the clash with WTO agreements, why developed nations aren't happy. PDS, public distribution system, the objectives, functioning, limitations and revamping of it. So objective and significance, how does it function? Through fair price shops, ration cards, Aadhaar linking and other initiatives. Shortcomings and problems associated, need to improve it and measures to improve the loopholes and lacunae associated with PDS, steps which are taken by the government in this regard. Issues of buffer stocks and food security. Here, how does FCI maintain buffer stock? What are the objectives for it? The impacts of government's procurement and distribution. How does the government play a role here? What is the need to food security and NFSM and other food security related government initiatives? Then economics of animal rearing. Scope potential in India, this is important from the perspective of mains, not so much from the perspective of pre. If current affairs are there, then you can read it. Significance and location, what are the constraints and challenges, the upstream and downstream requirements, how to maintain and manage supply chain, and government policies and initiatives. Here you can read many other initiatives. So that's it for today. In the next episode, we will cover the other aspects as well. Stay tuned and thank you so much for watching.